Um, Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us to this our Fireside Chat with the talented creative director, Jason Cook, and Vanessa, resource manager at BN, and also the manager of the Flyers on the Wall initiative. With us are Han, our creative director and co-founder at BN and director of the Flyers on the Wall, and Andrea, designer at and animator at BN, and also the design lead for the Flyers on the Wall initiative. We will dive into the topic how an industry slowdown became my creative catalyst, navigating today's landscape through a strong POV and design thinking. Han and Andrea will ask two structured questions, and finally, we will open the floor for Q&A. You will find a form in the chat where you can submit additional questions or about the ones you are most excited to get insights on. And now I would love to hand it over to Han, who will be the moderator during this session.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Okay, so let me see in a second. I'm gonna pin myself for a moment here. And also, we have a hard out today at 9, so we're gonna keep the schedule very tight today, okay? Just so everyone would know. So yeah, I just wanna talk a little bit, really quick, about Jason. Like, to me, when I saw Jason's resume, that's my envy meter went way up, right? Because I think he worked at all the places that I wished I got a chance to work at when I was coming to the field. Like, he started on motion theory, which was a big deal when they came onto the scene. Imaginary Forces, Stardust, Roger, Superbad, Real Royale, Logan, Freelancer, Buck, Koiga, and you know, he has a wealth of experience in motion design. And then suddenly he also became a live action director. And that was a big head scratcher for me. Like, how did you make a transition from being a cinema 4D artist to the creative director, you know, in motion design? That makes perfect sense. But then live action director. So I think in our Fly on the Wall context, what we're looking at is a treasure trove of industry knowledge trapped inside one person. And I would love for, you know, just pass the mic to Jason to kind of intro himself.
Yeah, hey everybody. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much. Honored to be part of this and to be speaking with you today. Yeah, I've been at this a long time. I'm like legit a dinosaur. I started. I went to school at ArtCenter and College of Design in Pasadena. I was the first. My class was the first motion design class that was you know, for the emerging motion design track at ArtCenter. So we were the first ones to get through that. And then it was just a lot of firsts. It was a lot of, like, you know, early days After Effects 3D, and then like Cinema 4D, and Maya was already around at the time, and just it's been a wild ride, you know. And I think the purpose of this conversation today is really to talk about how my process, and it is always design driven, whether that's for an animation project or live action or experiential or anything like that, can actually feed into any and all types of production and types of work. And that's why I sit here today being able to wear a lot of hats. But yeah, to Hung, to your point, yeah, I've been in a lot of places. I've had a long career, and I'm super grateful. And listen, I still wake up every day, you know, well over 20 years doing this, and I'm still like stoked. I think we are in an industry that is ripe with different types of opportunities, right? Like, I think a lot of us, we feel like, you know, oh, we do motion design and that's where it kind of ends. And I'm here today to talk to you about where we can apply and leverage these skills in all kinds of different mediums and production pipelines and stuff. So happy to be here. Hung, did you want me to answer how I got into live action? Or is that
let's get to that in a bit, right? Okay. I want to hone in on the topic today. So as you all know, 2025 is a very wild year for the industry. but it's not the first time our industry has experienced some of these roller coaster rides. So, throughout the past decades, we have seen some ups and downs, and this one is unique. But hopefully, we all can learn from how Jason navigated, a downturn. Back in 2023, there was a huge downturn. People get laid off. The economic, downturn really shook up the industry and worked for a lot of us. Hollywood on strike and all that. So Jason, with his knowledge, found a way to turn it into a creative catalyst. So I'm hoping that we all can learn from his experience how to see a downturn as an upturn, if you will. So Jason, let's dive into that a bit, right? Like basically 2023, and you basically had to change the way you were working. Am I right?
Yeah. So I was in ECD at We Are Royale, and I was busy. I was working on like 8 or 10 projects at a time, just managing, different levels of production, shooting live action commercials, like the whole thing. And everyone got hit, like to Hung's point, like every company had struggled around this time. Production was way down. We had, the strikes. We had brands were pulling back their budgets, and people got, hurt by that. And there was the economy as well. There was a lot of uncertainty coming out of COVID. And so I got pulled into or wrapped up in a layoff. And I found myself, having to kind of, like, I hadn't been freelance in 12 years. Okay. So now I'm like reemerging as freelancer, calling up all my old buddies, like, hey, I'm available now. And they're like, dude, love you, but we're having a hard time feeding our own people, let alone a freelance creative director, with, a senior freelance creative director. And so, it was, full transparency, gang. Like, it was dark for a bit, it was like, how am I going to get work at these studios that I used to work at? How am I supposed to break back into an industry that kind of forgot about me as a freelancer? How do I start making money again? And so what I ended up having to do was, reposition what my offering was. So rather than saying like, I only work at X company, okay, here's actually the real thing. I think we can get caught up in our work and in our careers with like this very, like, I'm gonna just talk live action for a second. Like, you're on a very long lens. You're on like a 200 millimeter lens. And so everything's compressed and it's like super focused, and you're just like tunnel vision. That's what I'm looking at. What I had to do was I had to go to a really wide lens. I had to widen out my field of view, and then start to think about like, well, how can I leverage what I do, which is problem solving. I problem solve, but I problem solve in service of clients, for agencies, for brands, for event companies, whatever, PR companies, whatever. And how do I leverage those tools, those skills, into new industries or into different industries or different parts of the production pipeline? So traditionally, and Hung, you can probably appreciate this, right? As vendors, a lot of times we are on the downstream. So creative has been decided, it's gone through focus groups, it's gone through client approvals, and then it's sent out, right? So I see this as a director when I look at boards that are sent from my reps, or I look at this as a creative director at companies. And so what my unlock was like, wait a second, why the hell do I have to be over here? Why can't I come over here? Why can't I start the creative process? I'm still doing the same thing, but I'm doing it in the upstream. I'm doing it the gestation of the idea, not when it's kind of half baked and you're just adding the sprinkles and the frosting, right? Mm-hmm. So coming up, if we're staying with that analogy, coming up with the recipe, right? and then following it through to the end. And that was like the big thing. So I started to network, right? And this, I really encourage you all to like use your network. And the reality is like the network, especially on LinkedIn, like the success rate of making a connection and then having someone respond, I don't know, it depends, right? Like it's all about your strategy and your approach. But like that, what I ended up doing that year that I was 9 months or so that I was like down and rebuilding and repositioning was I just had meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. And that eventually led into 2024. And I started working again and freelancing and stuff. I started working at Buck and all of that. So the reality is that what we do as creatives, it's about our point of view. We are hired for our point of view. We are hired for our skills. So if you have hard skills, like you're really, really great at animation and 2D and you love that, that's a great skill. It's a good skill to have. And you can get hired for that. But for me now, where I'm sitting as like a very senior creative director, my skills are about how do I solve the problem for you? How am I an adult in the room, in a sense, like where I can talk to the client and I can build the deck and I can kind of synthesize all of that information into creative ideation and then produce that work and then see that to the end. And I think that's the wide lens, especially now, guys, especially now, because everything's kind of weird. Wide lens it. Make yourself valuable in things where you didn't think you could be. And we can talk a little bit further about that, but I feel like maybe maybe should jump in. I want to keep talking over.
No, that's really great, right? So I'm gonna challenge that a bit, right,
Yeah.
Jason? I say that you were able to do that because you actually had 20 plus years of experience at top shops. So I think the step up for you from downstream to upstream was a bit more natural. I would say, right?
Sure.
But I think that the lesson for a lot of people is that at any stage of your career, if you have a wide lens and not looking at it as a straight path, then maybe you level up sooner than later if you look at it that way, maybe. But also, I'm curious about the design thinking part of your that you mentioned. Like you said, you apply design thinking when you thought about this process. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think if you break down like design is visual communication, okay? But the core of it is problem solving. And what that means is that we're using visual language to communicate ideas. We're trying to there's a natural kind of harmony to good design, right? When you see something that's well designed, you're like, oh, I can kind of engage with that. I can lean into that. And I think that when I think about design thinking, it's about how do I like there's just the idea of systems, right? Or recognizing kind of patterns in patterns, and I mean like in tone and voice and brand, and because a lot of times all the things that we need to help our clients are there. They're there. It's just about like pulling on the right string or like digging up the right thing that helps you find your way through. Because it's all about that. It's always about like, what's our way into helping solve this problem? What's our visual construct? And that stuff is always derived by the process. It's discovered through the process for me. So when I think of design thinking, it's not graphic design. It's utilizing the process of visual communication to apply it to any and all things. Here's an example. This year I got commissioned to do concert visuals. Okay, for Morgan Wallen, if you guys know him, country music star. I have no business doing concert visuals. Never done it before. Never done it before. Have no. I had like what? Why would you? You know, like that's a weird one for me. But when you look at the and that means, what does that mean? That means like 20 something. I think we ended up doing like 26 or 27 songs that were like 3.5 minutes long, full animation, you know, IMAG video feeds, like the whole thing. It was the most insane project I've ever done or I've ever managed. But when you actually just break down the process and how to apply the process to something like that in incrementally, song by song, you find your way through. And it happens every time. And for me, that's design thinking. It's being able to be valuable in any kind of context, in any kind of creative context, or in any kind of creative, assignment, right, or project. And that to me is what that was like the unlock for me, was like, we don't have to just apply this to commercials or whatever. Like, it's like, this process is invaluable when it comes to defining or finding your way through any kind of creative problem. And with
So Jason,
yeah.
So Jason, for those who are not familiar, are we talking about the design thinking process as popularized by like IDEO? You know, like with the different stages, like, you know, you get a deal to empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test.
I think that's part of it, but like, I'm also here to say, like, it's that there, I think it's going to be different for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can list out my process for you guys, and you can absorb it, and you might go, yeah, that one, I don't know about that one. I don't feel like that applies to me, and that one doesn't really make sense. And so, you know, I think, but what that does is it builds up your point of view. It builds up your sensibility. It builds up your take on process or material, or your way into discovering your creative pathway. So I think, I don't know if there's like hard and fast rules, you know, but I think it's all part of it. I think a big part of it is asking questions. You know, like when we're having a creative brief, it's our job it's a conversation, right? It's a dialogue, and it's about discovering like what the client really wants, not just what they're asking for, right? Because that's what resonates. That means it's like, clients want to be heard. You know, it's like you always hear like, I want to be heard, and it's like, yeah, clients really want to be heard. So answer their question, or listen to what they're saying, and then apply that in your creative approach when you pitch. I think that's a big part of it. And I think that, you know, we have to always be in service, right? Like, how can I help you? How can I help you? What is it that I can do to fulfill the promise of what you're asking for? And I think that's another part of it. And then good design, like good design every day. Every day we have to have good design. Good design, like I said, there's that harmony, there's that feeling of like familiar, of comfort when you see good design, you know, and that helps the client lean in. Yeah. I think that's what the design process is. It's many things, but it all kind of like, it all sort of always ends up at the same, you know, in a good place when you follow it, when I follow it.
Yeah. So you find your own process, basically. You know, the principles are there, but find your own process, and you were able to apply your process from what you have been doing downstream in production, upstream, to talk to the clients and get them to buy in at an earlier stage. So that's really great to hear, and I think that's a great lesson for all of us. I want to move on to do a bit of role playing. So Andrea, my co-host here, he's going to role play a seasoned art director who has occasionally creative directed projects, but mainly in motion design and animation.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass it to Andrea.
Thank you, Jason. So
Hi, Andrea.
my question is, when you are in live action production with real work constraints, how does your background in motion design help you problem solve creatively and vice versa?
So the question is, how does my background in motion like help the live action?
Yeah, when it is a work with real constraints.
Oh, like constraints. Yeah. Well, I look at live action through the lens of design as well. So I think that, and how does that translate? That translates through how I frame the shot, that it always feels graphic. I feel like that's really important. The set design, the production design, how we design shots. We've all done like legit. I've done so many Cinema 4D camera moves that like I always kind of go back to the archive in my head and I go, that could be an interesting kind of camera shot. Like now there's the physical constraints of like how do we do that, but it all sort of like it all funnels in. I think that, you know, live action is it's its own animal in a lot of ways, right? Like because it's a different type of production. There's a lot more room for, you know, I guess human error, right? With depending on your artist and your crew and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's not all that different from being a creative director. A director isn't all that different from being a creative director is what I'm saying. Because really what we're doing as a creative director, as a director, is we're shepherding or we're curating or we're helping to helping our team, you know, empowering our team to be able to create deliver on a vision. So I think they're quite relative, and I found that out along the way. I didn't really know that early on. I thought they were very different, but they're pretty similar roles. It's just the type of artist that you're working with, you know, and different departments. And it's not a VFX supervisor. It's a, you know, it's a cinematographer or whatever, you know. And so, but motion graphics, I think, when we think about, or when I think about the work I like to do, it's like live action. It's like integrated design or integrated animation or integrated CG. It's that combination of live action with some sort of visual. That's the stuff I love to do. And the reason I love to do that is because I'm always just going to be a designer. I went to design school. I'm always going to be a designer. So I like design. I like to see graphic elements. I like to see something that feels intentional and helps service the story, not just random elements. It's something that feels connected, but it's integrated. It's you know, surreal. You know, it's a strange reality, whatever you want to call it. And I like that kind of stuff. So I think that's how the motion stuff feeds into my live action work.
Okay, so it's like, it's not the medium, it's how you see the final results, let's say.
Always.
Okay.
I think we need to kind of think technique agnostically, and it's always in service of like the idea and like how to tell the best story that communicates the best messaging that resonates the best, that will help engagement the best, you know, engage the audience the best. So that's always the key, you know. I think we have to it can't be about us. It has to be about like what's best for the project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So my second question maybe is already answered, but do you ever feel like a different version of yourself when you are on live action project set versus when you are deep in motion design? How do those two creative environments shape you emotionally?
Okay. Being on set can be like super stressful because there's time is money, right? And you have maybe 1 to 3 days to shoot a thing, and you know, all these variables. I was shooting a commercial a few years ago, and it started snowing for like 4 hours, completely we were not supposed to have snow in our scene, you know, and it was all exterior. So like stuff can happen, and it's weird, and it's fluid, and it's a little, and it's, you know, there's a lot of different types of variables when you're on set that can happen, and that can kind of disrupt the flow of things. I think when we're doing motion graphics, I think it's a lot more structured. I think because, you know, there's way less variables, right? There's way less outside influence that can affect, except for clients, obviously, and all that. But like in production, I think there's less things that can kind of derail the process or derail the production that in live action. But they're both exciting, you know. Like I still think, like, you know, I'm not really on the box as much these days, you know, like as a production artist. I'm not really, like, I'm more above things, and I guess I'm more of a manager in a lot of ways. But there is, you know, but there's still something super exciting about seeing a really cool animation test, and it, like, you know, it gets your gears going, and you're like, wow, this is really great. We can really apply this here, and this will actually really help communicate this. And if we just tweak that a little bit, it's going to really help, you know, over here. And like, so that process, that design thinking process still, you know, kind of plays into that, into those types of productions as well.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, thank you for that, Jason.
Of course.
I'm gonna start with the questionnaire that we have. Tiffany, are you here? I want you to ask you a question. Tiffany Lazar, I see you in the attendee list. Okay, I'm gonna ask a question for you. Maybe you can jump in, okay?
Hi, Tiffany.
I'm sorry, did I hear Tiffany jump in? No. Okay. Sometimes, this is Tiffany's question. Sometimes I get stakeholder requests with a lot of missing information. And while the clock is already ticking, I try to brief the creative team as thoroughly as possible. I've set up automated brief templates and other initiatives, but often the requests come from a quick idea in a meeting, and we're expected to move right away. How can I approach stakeholders to get the key information as effectively and efficiently as possible, given the fast pace of a startup?
Yeah. So Tiffany, this happens, right? This is like a thing. Like, I'm working with Buck right now, and we're doing like a big tech company thing, and they're very demanding, and they, you know, they throw a curveball, and you have to go, shit, like that sucks. That's going to kind of ripple out and affect these things, and we're already in production on these things, and how is this going to you know, kind of derail, or not derail, but like affect our production, because we're well on our way. I think the first thing we always have to do is we cannot be reactionary. We can't be like, got off the phone with client, hit the panic button, oh my God, the room's on fire. We have to take a beat, take a breath, ground, whatever sort of thing you need to do, and then come back to the table, and then really just think about, like, what, I always go back to this. Why did they ask that question, or why did they make that request? What are they feeling that is making them get nervous? Sometimes the client is just about anxiety, and they're just like, I don't know, this idea, maybe we pushed a little too hard, and like the creative just feels like it's not going to work for them, and they get a little nervous, and they're spending a lot of money. And when we're you know, talking to clients, and they throw a curveball like that, I think you have to take a beat, and you say, like, okay, I hear you, I hear what you want to do. Let's talk about why. Why do you want to make this big change, or this big pivot? What is it you're feeling about where we're at in the process, and what you're seeing as our latest cut? What is it making you feel? That will identify some some valuable intel that then you can use to apply to whatever that solution is. You could also, and this can happen a lot, and it does happen a lot, you can also talk them off a ledge, because you can say, I hear you, and here's what, here is, you know, I hear you, and this is why I think you're still safe. And so before you get to that point where you have to rebrief your team, you have opportunities to speak with the stakeholders and try to get them to understand what you're trying to do even better, and why it's a good idea. And sometimes they're just going to say, no, I don't want that. But you know what you know what you've shown them is you've shown them you're a good partner, that you're trying to solve their problem in real time, or at least listen to listen even deeper into what they think the problem is, and that gives you more information to help them solve it. I hope that helps.
Tiffany, are you happy with the answer? Are you ready? Okay,
thank you. Sorry, my mic didn't connect at some point, but yes, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, the next question is from Dale Pittman. I think he's not there. So how often do you adapt a creative brief to the client side of operating exception? Or instance, a large corporation versus a small no-profit?
Okay, so I think the question was,
How often do you adapt a creative brief to the client style of operating expectation? For instance, a large corporation versus a small no-profit.
I see. Okay, so how often do you style a brief, like an actual creative, like a pitch back kind of thing? Is that what you're saying? Like a treatment?
I think I'm trying to understand this question too. So how do you adapt a creative brief to the client's style of it? I think this is maybe a production creative brief for the team, you know, after the client brief you on a project.
Okay.
So if you have like a large corporation, they would have different expectations than a small nonprofit. So how do you adapt your own creative brief to your production team? Is my interpretation of it.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think again, it's all the answers to the creative brief and how to adapt it are in the conversation you have with the client. Everything will come from that. So you have to ask questions that will elicit answers that will, ultimately become kind of like strings that you'll pull on, or pieces of evidence that are going to help you put the picture of the kind of your way in together, your creative opportunity. Yeah, I think what they're asking is, you absolutely do have to adapt, and here's the thing. If it's a bigger client, you may have more money, so your approach could be a little bit bigger and more ambitious. If it's a nonprofit, are you doing this pro bono? Do they have $20? You have to create. You have to offer creative solutions that will not that aren't so ambitious that they can't be produced. So one of our jobs when we're presenting and we're developing creative is being mindful, right? We don't want to promise something we can't deliver on financially or budgetarily or time or schedule wise. So you have to be, you got to be real. And so if it's a bigger company, you might have more, a healthier budget, and you can approach it that way. But if you have, someone more nonprofit, probably going to have to think smaller, but still think bigger. Think big in terms of, like, we talked about constraints earlier. How do you work within those constraints? How do you apply pressure in those constraints to create, amazing creative? I think that's always the goal.
Awesome. Okay, everyone, you can think of questions and raise your hands or put in the chat, and we'll call you out next. I'm going to ask one more question from the list, and then Andrea and I will take turn to call whoever wants to ask question live to Jason. So I'm gonna call on one more question from the list here from Brandon. Are you here, Brandon? I see you in chat. If your mic is not on, let me know. Okay, I think he just jumped off. Brandon is a professor at SCAD, and he has a question for students. Do you have any suggestions for college students and recent grads who are navigating the early stage of their career? I would add in 2025 to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different time, right? Like, I graduated over 20 years ago, and it was a different time then, and it's like it's a time where I think we really need to be agile and versatile and adapt. There are a lot of our hard skills, design, animation, are valuable, okay? And our brains are valuable. Our ability to problem solve and to come up with creative ideas, and that is valuable. And I think there's absolutely opportunities for that. There's also AI, right? AI is in the picture now, and it's big, and it's got a big shadow, and and I think we need to be open to these new technologies as tools that we can leverage to help our creative problem solving. I'm using, AI today in production, and it's weird, and it doesn't always work, and sometimes you're like, why am I doing this when I can just go shoot something? And obviously there's budgetary reasons for that, but like it's different, but we are being asked to use these tools. And so I think if you're coming into the market now, I think you want to have a wide lens. You want to be like, this is not the time for specialists. I don't think. I'm having conversations with people all the time, CCOs at agencies and stuff, and everyone's saying the same thing. This is not the time. Like, people need people that can do multiple things. You're a designer, you're an animator, you can use AI, you're 3D, there was a time when specialism was the thing, and I don't think that's anymore. I think the more versatile you are as you exit and you come into the market, the more valuable you are.
Do you think people still need a core set of skills? Because I feel like for us, for example, as a studio, when we look for people to come and work with us, we definitely look for people who are versatile, but we do look for like a core set of skills. Like, you should be good at something before you become good at everything.
Yeah, I don't think it's about being good at everything, because that's like impossible, right? Like, or very rare. I just think it's about, I think we need to be open to different types of opportunities that we can be valuable, and we can leverage our hard set of skills. And maybe that's mostly design. Maybe you're mostly really, really great at doing style frames for design boards or whatever, but or you're really great at type design. That's great. That's good. But you should also have a working understanding. And I'm telling you guys this, like, you have to have a working understanding now, I think, of AI tools. You have to be able to navigate that type of tool. And I think animation is obviously super important. And if you're a designer animator, you're more valuable than maybe just an animator, because you can design boards and you can animate them. That's always been the case, I think. That's how I came up. And as far as like live action and stuff, like, I mean, listen, like, anybody can shoot stuff now. I mean, we have cinema cameras on our phones, so if you have aspirations to do stuff like that, I think now's the time to do that, and keep keep exploring like what it is you do. Because it doesn't have to be one thing. You don't have to just be a designer, animator, or an animator. You can do all kinds of stuff. And then we have the internet, which things can go viral, and then you get seen by a producer, and then who the hell knows? Like, this is a different world than when I was coming up. So use that to your advantage. You know, there's a lot of opportunity, and I think I keep going back to this, but like, we don't only have to make commercials. There's a lot of different types of stuff that's out there that is available that needs talented people. So I think that's what I would look at if I was graduating today. I'd try to like make myself as big as possible, you know, as wide as possible, widen the lens, and then see where you can fall, you know, kind of land into.
Okay, raised hands. I see some hands raised. So Andrea, you want to take?
Yeah, Anaisa.
Hello.
Hello. I'm actually one of Brandon's students. So I have a follow-up question to these, you know, like sometimes, and not just for students, but for people kind of, you know, for everyone. Sometimes it feels very overwhelming to have that such a big ask of, you know, being everything. And, you know, a lot of us are trying to, but my question is, do you have any advice in like, how can we show that? Or how can we, you know, because sometimes it feels like we only have 30 seconds to make an impression with a portfolio. And then it's like, I think that's my question. It's so much that I want to show and so many aspects of me that I would like to show. So how do you suggest that we do that?
It's a really great question, and nice to meet you. Okay, so when we're talking about like a portfolio, when I'm looking at your work in a reel or on a website, what I want to see is who you are. I want to see who you are as an artist. I want to see your point of view. I want to see your sensibility. Whatever you put forward, make it, don't ever put like fluff because you're like, man, my reel's only 30 seconds. Make that the best damn 30 seconds you have right now at this moment. Okay, because that's who I want to see. I'm not hiring you because you are the best animator I've ever seen come out of school. I'm hiring you because I really like your illustration work or your style, or I really like the way I see in you the seeds of you know, someone I can put on a team as a junior that I can you know, help that can help grow. You are not expected when you graduate school to be a seasoned artist, right? You are not. That is no one has that expectation. What we're looking for are just those like little sparkles of like opportunity that we can see, like where, oh wow, you really understand keyframing, you know, or whatever. Like you really understand how to animate typography. Those are the things we look at. So I wouldn't put that pressure on yourself. And when I'm talking about I you know, being open and being broad, it's just about like when you start doing your outreach, doesn't have to be just motion design companies. Go to agencies. Agencies have in-house, like almost every agency now has an in-house animation team. So start, you know, look there. Don't look at experiential places, because there's going to be opportunities to help create motion graphics for immersive experiences and immersive, you know, big, huge, whatever's like event production companies. That's what I'm trying to get at, is we're not relegated to motion. Motion design does not mean advertising. Okay, it doesn't mean that. It means we have a certain set of skills that can apply to motion design. Is that in an editorial newspaper? Maybe, because there's a lot of work like that. You know, is it at a whatever, an agency or a brand? Yes, absolutely. There's in-house everywhere. Doesn't mean you have to go to like, you know, a laundry. And they're great. I love PJ, but you know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Of course.
For Anissa and other students too, I think another insight I could pull from what Jason has said so far is, if you build your portfolio, don't put everything on your website, right? Put the best, And that best should represent your POV. Now, if you want to show the wide lens, put a play section. Put a play section when I'm playing around with these ideas, and you show your wide lens. So like in using Jason's words here, right? To show that you have a wide lens, but this is your POV. Like this thing that have distinctive POV is important to stand out. Show your wide lens as well.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Emily.
Hey, short and sweet question. So something that really I think the biggest takeaway is how you're talking to clients and how you're relieving their stress. And I think those soft skills are so important and often lacking in our field. I'm curious how you grew yours, and if you took classes, if you had a minor in psychology, or what how you built up those skills.
That's a really great question, Emily, and nice to meet you. Okay, I mean, look, I sit here today being very confident, but I wasn't always, a lot of this is just experience and messing up and learning from your mistakes. And there is a ton of psychology. I didn't go to school for psychology, but I feel like part of my job is 60% psychology. It's managing client emotions and egos, and then there's the team and making sure everyone feels seen and supported, and then there's the stress that comes from managing multiple projects and juggling things and that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of that in there. But yeah, gosh, I wish there was like a master class that I took or something, but it's not. I mean, my master class was just my career trajectory. I went from an art director, like a freelance art director, into owning my own company. Okay, so that was a big leap where I went from a freelance AD to being a CD and then directing live action because I had to, because no one else, because no one else was doing it at the company I started with an old ArtCenter buddy, and that is the school of hard knocks. I don't know. It's just trying to it's brute force. Just try to make your way through it, and making dumb mistakes, and then but also just being cool, I learned something there. My first shoot I ever did was a Toyota commercial campaign, and my God, I went in so confident, I knew what I was going to do, and I was like, wait, you have to talk to actors a specific way, you can't just tell them what to do, and that was a huge oh my God, I'm so out of my element, I don't know what, and then but you have to make your way through it, and there's so many learnings, Emily, that will come to you as you move through your career, and I think it's just about, again, cherry picking the things that are going to help you be stronger, and just being open to the process, and just keeping it fluid, because at the end of the day, any kind of resistance that you against things, that it creates blockages, and I think we just have to be really adaptable, and you're going to learn how to there's going to be certain keywords that you might pick up on when you're talking to clients that are going to be oh, I can use that the next time. That was really helpful. I think they really engaged with that line of thinking. And then you just put that in your toolbox and you pull it out when you go to your next client call.
Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah.
Ricardo?
Jason, hey, what's up, man?
Hey, good to see you.
I thought it was just Hung and I that didn't know what we were doing all the time. But hey, man, I want to say I love your candor here, just your openness. I think that's what this industry needs more of. It's a lot of times we're trying to figure it out. Every brief is different. It's just take it as it comes. So I want to ask you a question about pitching.
Yep.
So it's something that we all have to deal with at one point or another. How do you deal with it? How do you deal with the losses?
Oh man. Listen, every time we pitch, right, we put our heart, our soul, our guts into that thing, you know, and it's real. It's real. It's especially with like live action, when you're just so excited about an idea and you're like, and you had that creative call and they just were gelling and everything was great. And then you pitch and you're like, you didn't get it. Yeah, shit. I think it's, I think we all just got to put our best foot forward, you know, like, and put, like, make sure that whatever we're presenting is answering the client's, you know, brief as best we can. And again, this always comes down to point of view, right? Like, you could have an amazing creative call and, you know, you feel really good about what you're presenting. You feel good about your way into that, you follow the process, or I follow the process. And then, you know, someone else had a better idea. And it's like, it just happens. It sucks, but it happens. I think the best thing though about pitching is you get on the radar of creatives and producers, and it may not be the win, but you're now on their list of people that were like, man, Jason really brought it. You know, the client ultimately picked the different direction, but he was our recommend, and wow, we should bring him in on something else. That's the opportunity. We have to look at every pitch as an opportunity, not just for that job, but for the relationship, for the job in the future, for the, you know, the connection with these creatives and these producers that hopefully will lead to more opportunities, I think is the key thing there. The losing and the winning, yeah, that's part of it. But I always look at it as like, how can I leverage this into more things?
Got it. Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Very cool. We have about 5 more minutes to go, so we can take 2 more questions. So I'm just calling that out for anybody else who wants to ask, you know, questions. Just raise your hand and chime in. So meanwhile, I'm gonna ask a follow-up question for Jason here.
Sure. So
Jason, with the pitching that Ricardo mentioned just now, what is the win rate that you feel would make you feel less depressed for you? What is that?
in like live action or creative direct?
I think just overall, you see a big difference between the two? Like, you win more in motion design versus live action, or?
Nowadays, yeah, for sure. Because there's the production community, director community is so huge now, so competitive. But I don't, you know, honestly, Hung, like, I kind of don't look at it like that. Like, do I wish I was doing more production and shooting more? Sure. But I'm also really happy doing, listen, I wear two very different hats now. And I kind of love that, like, I can bounce in between the two of them. So, well, I do stay very busy, but I don't look at it like, I don't have like a win rate kind of percentage. I truly don't. Like, I'm being honest. I don't. I just look at it like, am I doing something that my brain is engaged and I'm creatively exploring some things? And listen, I like doing things that feel a little bit dangerous, you know? Like, I like stuff that, like, feels like I don't know my way in right away and I gotta, like, muscle my way through it. I like that. So if I'm engaging with projects like that, then I'm happy. Then the win rate doesn't really affect me so much, honestly.
And when you do a pitch, what is do you have a formula? Like, for example, right, for us, and this is a good tip for designers coming out of school too, when you do your own work. We always try to do one that answers the brief for 100%, right? That's the safe option. It's like, we got it. And then we do a super risky one, you know, like, this is like out of the left field, they're not expecting it. And then we throw the rest in like an appendix or whatever. So who knows? But you have a formula or something like that when you pitch?
Yeah, same. Mild to wild, you know? It's about, the worst thing I think we can do is regurgitate exactly what the client asked for. But we're also going to learn on that call, that original or that OG, like, client call, we're going to say, where do you want us to put pressure? Where do you want us to explore? Like, how baked is this? So those are the types of questions that you can ask to say, like, that will help your approach, but never, I do not think we should ever just give them exactly what they want or what they ask for, because I don't think that's helping them. I think it's something that's 10%, a little bit more. It's a yes and, right? It's a little bit of improv. Yes and, cool, got you, but we can do this. And then yes, absolutely pitch something wild. Absolutely do it, because sometimes it works. Sometimes you end up somewhere in the middle. You know, it's like a gradient or a spectrum, and you're like mild and wild, and then maybe there's something in the middle that, like, another idea that you could throw in. I think that's a good way to, that's my approach.
So I'm gonna flip that conversation, right? So you in the middle. We were talking about you and the client, how we pitch. I'm gonna flip it. You still stay in the middle, but now you're talking to the designer who works under you to do what you ask them to do, right? So what do you expect that person to do? Let's say on a pitch or on a design. Do you want them to do exactly what you want? What do you expect out of them?
Oh, great question. No. I always am like, I'm like best idea wins, right? So like, I'm gonna set the table, and okay, designer Hung, I'm gonna set the table for you, and I'm gonna say, like, this is the intention, this is what we need to go after, this is the idea, this is the story. And then my hope from you is you're gonna be like, cool, got it. And then, but look, what other things can we put on top? What other elements can we add that will plus this out even more? That's the value add, right? That's the thing where it's like you take something that is, you know, maybe expected, and you do something interesting. You do something more interesting with it, and you get a different result that could service the client even more. I think that's always totally open for me. I love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we're almost at time, so I want to pass it back to Vanessa to close us out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. You can have here all Jason's information. So if you want to connect with him, link it in. Also, we want to invite you to our next Fireside Chat. The next event will be with Michaela Vandermost with the topic Designer at Scale, a new role in modern advertising. That will be on October 23. We really appreciate that you join us. Thanks so much, Jason, for your time. We love having you with us, and hope to see all of you in the next chat on October 23.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jason.
Jason.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.